stumbling onto a blueprint, not for a house or, a bridge, but for an entire empire.
Right.
Like a manual written by two anonymous figures using this soaring, mystical language of classical antiquity.
Yeah, it's incredibly poetic.
But then it's paired with the cold, hard mathematics of theoretical physics and electrical engineering.
Which is such a jarring combination.
Exactly. And you, the person listening right now, you're likely someone who is always looking for that deeper layer.
The actual machinery beneath the hood.
Yeah, the machinery of how success and reality actually operate. And that is exactly the incredibly strange, fascinating text we are doing a deep dive into today.
Right, it's a wild ride.
We are exploring a dialogue between two highly enigmatic authors who call themselves Helios and the Mad Philosopher.
Such great names.
Right. And their stated mission is to lay down the absolute, unyielding blueprint for something they call the 501 Empire.
And it is a genuinely wild piece of source material to unpack. I mean, it immediately defies your expectations.
Oh, for sure.
Just to be clear right up front, when they talk about the 501 Empire, they aren't talking about a literal nation state with borders.
No armies or anything like that.
Right. It is a philosophical framework. It's a digital community they've constructed.
Like a mindset.
Exactly. It's a manifesto designed for their followers, outlining an alternative mindset and an alternative economy. But they do not treat it as a metaphor.
Right.
They present this philosophy with the rigid precision of, well, a modern architect drawing up schematics.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because reading this source material, it feels like stumbling upon a secret society's blueprint.
It really does.
It's equal parts ancient philosophy and theoretical physics.
Yeah.
Like, they're dealing with concepts of wealth, power, and knowledge, but not at all in the way you'd see in a standard self-help book.
Or an economics lecture, yeah.
Right. They treat these concepts like literal elemental forces that can be harnessed and directed if you just, know the math.
And we really have to strip away our modern preconceptions of the word manifesto to grasp what they're doing here.
Good point.
Usually when we hear a manifesto, we think of abstract, pie-in-the-sky musings meant to be debated over a cup of coffee.
Yeah, like academic theory.
But this isn't that. It is framed as a strict construction manual.
Step by step.
Exactly. It is a step-by-step schematic for manifesting permanent wealth and achieving a profound foundational understanding of reality.
They really demand a lot from the reader.
They do. They aren't just asking you to think differently. They are demanding that you construct your reality differently based on these very specific laws of physics and spirit.
Which brings us to the raw materials of that construction, actually.
Right.
Because before we can understand the wealth that this 501 empire promises, we have to look at how these two view information itself.
Yes.
And the Mad Philosopher makes this incredibly bold statement right out of the gate.
He really does.
He says that people mistakenly view knowledge as a gift, when in reality it is a construction project.
And that is the foundational pillar of their entire worldview.
Yeah.
Because if you treat knowledge as a gift, you are treating it as something inherently passive.
Right, something just handed to you.
Exactly. Something bestowed upon you by a teacher, a book, or, some deep dive audio program that you simply receive and hoard in your brain.
Like getting a wrapped present, putting it on a shelf and saying, look how smart I am. I have this shiny box of facts.
Yeah, and that shiny box does absolutely nothing for you.
Right.
If knowledge is a construction project, then every piece of data, every law, every principle you learn is just a brick or a piece of rebar.
Or a measure of cement.
Exactly. The Mad Philosopher explicitly notes that they are synthesizing laws that have been centuries in the making. They are gathering the raw materials of history.
It's a huge undertaking.
But he uses a very specific metaphor here. He says that raw information is like a pipe without water.
A pipe without water.
Yeah. It has all the structure in the world. It has the capacity to direct flow, but it has absolutely no life until you put spirit into it.
But wait, let me push back on that for a second.
Sure.
Is there really no value in just knowing things? Like, if I take a weekend course and learn CPR,
Right.
but I never actually have to use it on someone, I haven't wasted my time.
No, of course not.
That passive knowledge isn't useless.
Yeah.
So why do they claim that raw, stored knowledge is a pipe without water? Are they seriously arguing that all the reading and studying we do is completely dead weight without this mystical spirit injected into it?
Well, it's actually worse than dead weight. The Mad Philosopher would argue it creates internal resistance.
Really?
Yeah. And your CPR example is actually perfect, but we have to look at the framing.
Okay.
If you learn CPR, you are installing a specific emergency pipe for a specific potential flow of energy. You are primed to act. That isn't passive at all.
Oh, I get it.
But what they are critiquing is the modern habit of endless, undirected consumption.
Like reading 50 business books a year but never actually starting a business.
Exactly. Or people who memorize the biographies of great leaders but shrink from any actual leadership roles in their own lives.
Right, right.
They have built an incredibly complex plumbing system in their minds, but because they refuse to act, to push any real pressure through those pipes, the system just rots.
Oh, wow. That is a phenomenal distinction.
Isn't it?
It's like having a beautifully wired house. You've got the heavy gauge copper running behind the drywall. The outlets are perfectly placed. Everything is up to code.
A perfect setup.
But that house is completely useless. It is dark, cold, and essentially just a very expensive storage unit for copper until someone finally flips the breaker at the main panel to let the electricity flow.
Right, and what's fascinating here is how the source material illustrates that exact electrical mechanism through the author's own partnership.
Oh yeah, the dynamic between the two of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are literally embodying this principle. The mad philosopher represents the sharp, unyielding logic.
He's the plumbing.
He is the copper wire. He understands the ancient laws and how they mechanically fit together.
But logic alone isn't enough.
No, it is cold. Helios, the second author, represents the animating energy.
He brings the electricity.
Literally. He brings the light, acting as what they call the filament in a cosmic triode.
Cosmic triode, yeah.
His stated role is to make the path plain as daylight for the people. The underlying mechanism they are exposing here is that logic requires illumination and structure requires energy to actually produce power.
That concept of the cosmic triode really stuck with me.
It's a great image.
For anyone who doesn't spend their weekends reading electrical engineering manuals,
Which is most of us.
a triode is an amplification tube. It takes a tiny, weak signal and uses a heated filament to amplify it into a much larger, more powerful current.
Exactly.
So they are essentially saying their collaboration takes these dry, ancient laws and amplifies them into a massive current for the listener to consume.
That's the goal.
But obviously, you can't just pump mass amounts of electricity into a system and leave it stagnant.
No, it would overload.
Right. Energy requires movement, or the whole system blows, which explains why Helios's absolute foundational physical law, the engine powering this entire 501 empire, is vibration.
You've hit the nail on the head. The 501 empire is built on a single, inescapable truth. Everything is vibrating.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
They blend these incredibly hard scientific concepts like triodes, vibrating matter, heated filaments with pure, unabashed mysticism.
They really do lean into it.
Helios talks about wanting the listeners to feel the passion of space and the passion of matter through their voices.
Such a wild phrase.
And then he drops this mandate. If a person wants wealth, they cannot just sit there. They must move with the rhythm of the earth itself.
Right.
Now, I have to ask you about the mechanics of this. Is this demand to move with the rhythm of the earth a literal instruction to get out into nature?
Like hugging trees.
Yeah, exactly. Or is it a metaphor for aligning our daily actions with larger macro trends rather than stubbornly fighting against them?
Well, it's largely the latter, though. In their esoteric framework, the physical and the metaphorical are just different octaves of the exact same frequency.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, in the context of the 501 empire, wealth isn't just about accumulating a big bank account.
No, it's bigger than that.
Wealth is defined as harmony. It is an alignment of forces.
Right.
If everything in the universe is vibrating from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest global economy, then stagnation is the ultimate enemy.
Stagnation is death to them.
Stagnation is quite literally unnatural. When you try to hold on to a dying business model, or when you refuse to adapt your skills to a new reality, you are essentially trying to stand perfectly still in a universe that is vibrating at thousands of miles an hour.
You're building a rigid structure in an earthquake zone.
Exactly.
It's like trying to build a massive inflexible skyscraper right on top of a tectonic fault line without installing any shock absorbers.
Right, it's just a matter of time.
You might think you've built something strong and immovable, but the moment the earth shifts, the moment that vibration hits, your rigid building shatters. You have to design the building to sway with the tectonic vibration.
That is a much better way to visualize it. I mean, think about a company like Blockbuster in the early 2000s.
Oh, classic example.
They had built an incredible rigid structure. They had mastered the plumbing of physical store locations and late fees.
They had it all figured out.
But the underlying vibration of human consumption was shifting rapidly toward digital streaming.
And Blockbuster tried to stand still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They refused to sway with the new rhythm, and because they fought the underlying vibration of reality, their massive empire shattered almost overnight.
Wow.
So to move with the rhythm of the earth itself means to observe the underlying frequencies of reality and sync your actions to them.
It's the ultimate fusion of the technical and the mystical.
Yes.
The technical side is knowing how to pour the concrete and install the shock absorbers. But the mystical side is feeling the passion of matter,
Yeah.
sensing the vibration of the culture or the market. So you know exactly how much sway the building is going to need.
And that fusion is absolutely non-negotiable for them.
It has to be both.
Helios explicitly says they're taking the technical and the mystical and fusing them under the 501 Empire banner. It's not an either-or scenario.
Right.
You cannot be purely mystical, just sitting on a mountaintop visualizing $1 million because, well, you haven't built the plumbing to receive it.
You have no pipes.
Exactly. But you cannot be purely technical either, or you end up like Blockbuster, a perfect dead system.
Yeah.
You must have both to generate creation, power, and lasting wealth.
Okay, so understanding that everything vibrates and that we need to fuse the technical with the mystical, I mean, it's intellectually very stimulating.
It is.
But a blueprint is only useful if it shows you exactly where to put the screws, you know?
Right, the practical application.
Exactly. How does the 501 Empire expect a normal person to actually apply this to their life, their career, or their creative projects?
Well, thankfully, the mad philosopher provides a very strict, almost brutally straightforward methodology.
Okay.
And he starts by diagnosing the problem.
Yeah.
He says that most people act without observing, and they build without knowing the laws.
Which is the fastest route to disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine a contractor who shows up to an empty dirt lot, completely ignores the architectural blueprints, doesn't test the soil for stability, and just starts frantically throwing bricks on top of each other.
That's a DIY disaster waiting to happen.
Right. You sneeze and the whole wall comes down.
Exactly.
But that frantic, undirected brick throwing is exactly how the mad philosopher views the average person trying to navigate their career or their life.
It really is.
Which brings us to the solution.
Yeah.
The core operating system of their empire. The 3 steps.
Yes, the 3 steps.
The text claims this specific sequence moves a person from the physical realm deeply into the spiritual. Step 1 is the watch. Step 2 is master the how. And step 3 is demand to know the why.
And the ultimate goal of moving through these 3 steps is to turn people into what they call living question marks.
Living question mark.
That phrase, living question marks, is arguably the most important mechanical instruction in the entire manifesto. It completely redefines what it means to be an expert.
So what does this all mean?
No.
Because when I look at modern society, it feels like we are heavily, almost exclusively incentivized to get stuck on step 2.
Oh, completely.
We are absolutely obsessed with the how. Think about hustle culture.
Yeah, the optimization trap.
Right. We want the technical skills, the life hacks, the morning routines of billionaires, the 10-step guides to optimizing our workflow.
We want the shortcut.
We master the how so we can execute faster and faster, but we almost never demand the why.
And this raises an important question about the actual durability of what we are building.
Okay.
Are we building shadows or are we building permanent structures?
Yeah.
The mad philosopher is incredibly blunt about this. He says that demanding to know the why is the only mathematical way to ensure the wealth you build is permanent and not just a shadow.
And a shadow is something that looks like wealth.
Right.
It has the outline of success. Maybe it even buys you a nice car for a year.
Sure.
But the moment the light shifts, the moment the environment changes, it completely disappears.
Exactly. Let's really break down the mechanics of their 3 steps to see why stopping at the how is so dangerous.
Let's do it.
Step 1 is the watch. You just observe the physical facts. You look at your environment and say, okay, short-form video content is currently generating a lot of revenue for businesses.
Okay, that is a verifiable fact.
Right. Then step 2 is mastering the how. You figure out the mechanics to replicate a result.
You buy a course.
You buy a course, you learn the video editing software, you learn the exact hook formulas, you learn the algorithm's posting schedule, you become a master of the how, and you start making money.
But if you stop there, you are incredibly fragile.
Extremely fragile.
Because the platform doesn't belong to you. The algorithm doesn't belong to you.
Right. The moment the environment vibrates
The
differently.
moment it shifts.
The moment the platform updates its algorithm to favor, say, long-form text instead of short video, your how is instantly obsolete.
Wow.
Your pipeline goes completely dry, and your business collapses. Your wealth was a shadow.
Because you only memorized the steps to a specific dance, but you never actually learned how to hear the music.
That is exactly it. That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
And that is why the entire identity of the 501 empire is fixed on forcing you to find. Step 3. You must demand to know the why.
The why.
Why did those short videos work in the first place? If you investigate the why, you realize it wasn't about the editing software. It was about human psychology. It was about pattern interruption. It was about delivering a dopamine hit within the first 3 seconds of attention.
Right.
The why is the underlying architecture of human behavior.
And once you understand that why, you are bulletproof.
Compl-
You are no longer tied to the specific how of that one video platform. When the algorithm changes or the new platform emerges, you don't panic.
You adapt.
You just invent a new how based on the exact same why. The how gets you a paycheck for a year. The why gives you an empire.
That is precisely how wealth becomes permanent, and it ties directly into their concept of becoming a living question mark.
Right.
A living question mark isn't someone who is confused or perpetually lost.
Right.
It is someone who is fiercely active. They never just accept a successful result and lazily move on.
They dig deeper.
They interrogate the result, they rip it open, they force reality to show them the underlying plumbing.
And once they see the plumbing,
Exactly. Once they see the plumbing, they can run that Helios energy, that animating spirit, through it in any direction they choose.
it is the complete synthesis of their entire philosophy.
It really brings it all together.
You start with the physical by watching the facts. You move to the technical by mastering the how. And you ascend to the spiritual by demanding the why. The text confirms that this exact sequence is the literal frequency of their empire. Everything they teach, every concept they break down, is designed to give the reader the tools to move through this progression.
To stop throwing bricks frantically.
Yes, and to finally manifest lasting, structurally sound success.
It's a profound shift in perspective. It turns the learner from a passive receptacle of information into an active architect of their own reality.
It really does completely reframe the way you approach your own daily intake of information.
It makes you question everything you consume.
So to wrap up this deep dive and bring all these intricate threads together for you listening,
A big takeaway.
the core synthesis between Helios and the mad philosopher is ultimately a massive, blaring call to action.
It is.
It is the demand that you fundamentally change your relationship with reality.
Because if you want to build lasting wealth,
And again, wealth here meaning harmony, success, and permanent stability in whatever pursuit you care about.
right, you have to stop treating knowledge as a passive gift that you just store on a shelf.
It is a construction project.
You have to get your hands dirty with the rebar.
You have to stop building rigid towers on fault lines and start moving with the vibrating rhythm of your environment.
Feel the sway.
Exactly. You have to actively fuse the sharp, analytical plumbing of the technical with the illuminating, animating energy of the mystical.
The logic and the light.
And above all, you have to master those 3 steps. You have the blueprint of the 501 empire now.
It's all there.
You have the theoretical tools to combine the sharp logic of the mad philosopher with the illuminating energy of Helios.
The plumbing has been laid out, and the main breaker is just waiting to be flipped.
Which brings us back to that secret society's blueprint we stumbled upon at the beginning of this deep dive.
Right.
They gave us the schematics. They explained the physics of the cosmic triode. But the final execution is entirely up to you.
It always is.
So we want to leave you with a final lingering thought, straight from the underlying mechanics of this text.
Something to chew on.
The mad philosopher claims that the only mathematical way to make wealth permanent, the only way to keep your success from turning into a temporary shadow when the light shifts, is to demand to know the why.
Turning yourself into a living question mark.
Exactly. I want you to look at the most important project, career goal, or relationship in your life right now. The thing you're pouring all your daily energy into.
Ask yourself.
Are you currently stuck, just frantically mastering the how? And what would happen if, today, you finally stopped throwing bricks and demanded the why?